everyone, welcome back to the NGA podcast, where we dive into all things gymnastics. Whether you're guiding a team, cheering from the sidelines, or training to reach that peak performance, we're here to share expert tips and inspiring stories that will empower you to excel. I'm your host, Rebecca Grady, and I'm joined here with incredible co-hosts,
Dr. Ian Kreider,
Rob Axelrod,
Mike Nador,
Thomas Britton.
So in today's episode, we're talking about something I feel like doesn't get nearly enough attention, and that's coaches' well-being and burnout. So coaches, if you're listening, I want you to think about the last time that you really had a tough day in the gym. Maybe a gymnast was struggling, a parent might have been a little bit more demanding, you might have gotten in an argument with a colleague, or you felt like they were being passive-aggressive. There might have been a disagreement between teammates, and that made the practice tense. So I want you to ask yourself, did you have the capacity to handle the situation the way you wanted to? Or do you feel like you were already running on empty before even that day started? So the reality is that coaching is obviously physically demanding, but it's emotionally exhausting as well. And yet we rarely stop to ask, how are our coaches actually doing? Coaches put in so many hours. It's an emotional investment. They can feel pressure from their athletes, from their parents, and even from the gym. And for a lot of coaches, it's this exhaustion, stress, and then they feel like they can't get enough time for themselves or get anything done outside the gym. So that's why today we're diving into what I think is a very necessary conversation, where we're going to talk about why are so many coaches struggling with stress and exhaustion, but they're not really asking for help. We're going to talk about whether self-care is really the answer, or should this be looked at like a bigger structural change in the gymnastics world? And most importantly, what can we do about it now, starting today? Because really, at the end of the day, burned out coaches lead to burned out gymnasts. So let's get into this. All right, everyone, let's first talk about how you as coaches have been doing. What is a moment in your coaching career when you realized the stress wasn't starting to just impact your work, but it was flooding into your personal life too? Who wants to start?
I can start. So, back when I was a younger coach and in grad school for physical therapy, I would do school from like 8 to 4-ish, and then I would coach as soon as I could get to the gym until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, depending on what time practice got done. And then at one point in time, I was like, well, I should probably take care of myself too, and I should work out and do those sorts of things. So I started doing some CrossFit, but the only time I could fit that in was at I think I did either the 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. class. I can't remember which one. And so I think I did the 6 a.m. class, but I'd have to get up at like 4:30 to get lunch packed and get everything figured out that way. And then do all the coaching, do all the PT school stuff, somehow study at some point in time. And eventually, I think I did that for about 8 or 10 months. And then eventually I was just like, I have to do something different about this. This is not going to work. And I can't quit working, and I can't quit PT school. That'd be a bad idea. And so I had to quit the CrossFit thing. Right, and find another way to kind of work out that didn't involve so much time and commitment. But yeah, it was really a time where I was like, man, I was just dragging my feet in the door. Obviously, I wasn't able to give 100% to my gymnasts. I wasn't even able to give 100% to my studies or driving or or anything else. Right, so I had to cut back on some things and make sure that I was actually taking care of myself, not just pretending to take care of myself.
I can add to some of that. I think, as especially like young coaches getting started, you tend to be a little bit overzealous and you keep adding things on. So, let's add on an extra special practice, or let's add a morning training, or let's go a little bit longer in workouts. And so it tends to consume you, and it eats up all of your extra time that you had for yourself personally. And so it's a real common thing. It's real normal because you want to be the best, you want your kids to be the best. And so you think more time. In reality, it's not. It's really the quality of time that you're putting into the workout, and finding that balance in your life. When you're going through that phase, if you have a girlfriend, if you have a spouse, if you have family, that really becomes the part that gets pushed out, that important part, because you're so focused on your kids at the gym and how they're going to perform at the next competition. And that's all that really matters. So you have to have that balance where you have that little time for yourself. Like Ian said, CrossFit was that time for himself, and he pulled that away. And I don't consider that to be a good thing to do. I think that you have to have some balance where you have to have that time for yourself if you're going to be able to recharge and be able to do a good job as a coach and not get burned out. So the little time for yourself, obviously time for your family, to get religious, time for God, spend time with God, and then your work is like the last thing. But we put it way out of proportion. Sometimes we do it in reverse. So I think to keep yourself balanced will help you to not get burned out. And at different times of the year, it accentuates, it becomes more, because the closer you get to the big competition, the more time you want to put into the gym and your kids. And so your stress level is going to go up because you find yourself doing things like Ian did, which pull away that time for himself. And then the stress level just builds and keeps going. So I'll be quiet and let somebody else talk, but that's just my 2 cents on trying to avoid and stay away from burnout.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Couldn't agree more about making that time, especially giving yourself that Sunday for God. It's important to me in my life, and maybe it's not for everybody else, but that family time too. And so for me, I'm single. I'm not married. I don't have children, but I have my gymnast, Sarah, who's like a daughter to me, looks to me as like a dad. And I tried to take some time and go see her in her first year of college gymnastics, which made me feel guilty. I'm taking a day off of the gym to go watch a college meet. And I'm thinking the kids at the back of the gym are like, oh, it's his favorite, But there's this uber bond there between us. On top of that, for 36 years, I guess, of coaching. How many Super Bowls did I miss? How many birthdays am I coaching? My birthday's March 21st. In March, I'm at a meet. How many Mother's Days did I miss because I'm at Easterns? Mother's Day or Nationals is always at Easterns. So I'm missing family time. Easter becomes the one weekend off that we have. And it's Sunday, and it's like, well, it's Easter Sunday, and I just want to lay on my sofa and just try to recharge because I'm on 15 or 14 weekends in a row with, college gymnastics, levels, and they're back to back, and we're flying for an away meet for our optional girls in Florida. We're landing back on a Monday, and then Thursday we're leaving to go to West Virginia or Penn State or wherever for a 3-day meet that is in state, but it's a travel. It's 3 hours. That's a 9-hour day, and then have to be in Wilmington, Delaware at 8 a.m. the next day. You have to remember, though, as a gymnastics coach, you signed up for this. So there has to be, like everyone, we're all talking about it. How do we make that balance? I'm in the same boat as Ian. I decided that I don't work out nearly as much as I used to. I used to live in a fitness center. In fact, I owned a fitness center, and I just was nothing about wanting to, keep my body big and strong and be as, big and muscular as possible. Now I feel like, a big bloated mess. I decided that this is going to be my year. I'm going to make time for myself in the morning. But you know what? You're right. Got to pack my food. Got to make my smoothie. Got to get to the gym. I have my assistant. She meets me at the gym, so she keeps me honest. Like, hey, 9 o'clock tomorrow. And I'm like, well, listen, no, 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm like, okay. See you there, 9 o'clock. But that just made my day longer. As much as I did feel better, I lost some weight. I feel good to toss some weights around. We could just talk about work on cardio and do cardio, and that was me time. And you can hear my voice. My voice is gone. It's always around this time. It's lack of sleep. It's lack of nutrition. You're driving in a car for 8 hours. It's like, okay, let me bust out my chicken and broccoli. Like, I'm falling asleep. Oh, where's the M&Ms? Oh, where's the Red Bull? And so I bought myself the Oura Ring. Not that I'm giving them a plug, but that was 3 years ago to try to track my sleep. If you looked at my last 2 weeks of sleep, it gives you a score of 0 to 100, right? So it's just like grades. 80s are good, in my opinion, of sleep. I'm in the 50s. I got a 37 the other day, and I'm thinking, what kind of sleep are you getting? And it tells you, did you hit any deep sleeps? So these are all things that we have to take into consideration as coaches to make sure we make time for ourselves. And I haven't mastered that, obviously, because I'm still burning the candle at both ends. Mike's right. We want our athletes to be better. I got home from Delaware at 1 p.m. on Sunday, and my first thought was, well, let me call my kids that are getting ready for level 9, 10 regionals this weekend and see if they want to come to the gym for a couple hours on Sunday. Because I'm nuts. Yeah, I'm a gymnastics coach. I want the best for my athletes. I want them to come in and give them all the extra time that I can give them, because I leave on Wednesday for regionals, so they're going to miss practice. Oh, I'm like, should I drive back 8 hours from Virginia Beach, 7 hours, and train them on Friday, and then drive back down to Virginia Beach Saturday so they can compete on Sunday. Like, what's the balance? So again, I haven't figured it all out, but I do know that I need to recharge. So I didn't bring anybody in on Sunday. I spent the whole afternoon, 10 hours, 11 hours on my sofa, just sofa surfing, snoozing, napping. I cooked some, good healthy food. I had a glass of wine, binge watched some Netflix, whatever it was that just needed to do some recharge because to reset for this week. I wish somebody would have told me that in my younger years of coaching because I just kept burning the candle at both ends. So it got a little tough. So make time for yourselves, and in your schedule as a group with your gym, see if there's somebody else that can go to a meet. As the director, I want to be at every meet, and it's just not physically possible.
Yeah, I like what you say about, like, all of you guys have said it so far in different ways about literally designating time for yourself, because if I don't force myself to, I won't take it, because sometimes I'll be on a Sunday, like, usually my one day off, I'm not judging or coaching at a competition. And, if I have that extra free couple hours, if I don't force myself to, not be doing something gymnastics related, I'm like, maybe I could work on editing these routines, or what can we work on? Maybe I can go into the gym and I can just go do something extra. What can I do with this free time? And then I end up having none. So for me, it's important to really be stern with myself about when that time is going to be. If I can't just be like, I'll take some time on Sunday. That's too general. I won't let it happen once I actually get there. So I have to actually divvy out some time to where I'm going to have that free time. But I'm sure all of you guys have done this at some point, even if you still are. We don't have competitions every single weekend. So therefore, during competition season, when I don't have a competition with my own athletes, I'm judging. I'm taking any judging assignment I can. So over the past, couple months since meet season started, I've had maybe 2-3 weekends back here at home. And even then, I'm usually doing something or other at the gym or whatnot. And so that can become a lot when you're coaching every day during the week, and then your weekends are filled as well. You're like, well, where did the weekend go? And you quite literally have no time off, and you're right back into the next one. And as competitive coaches, we don't see a problem with that when it's happening, right? We're like, this is all good stuff. We're progressing in the right ways. This is all making me a better coach, making my athletes better, and me building a better program. But then over time, you start to see the residual effects of it of, I'm really starting to feel worn out. It can become monotonous to a degree, especially during meet seasons, routines, right? Summer's also busy, not as busy with no meets, but, you get to do fun stuff. Every day is something new. You get to do more exciting stuff. But during the meet season, you have to really make sure you're checking in with yourself and making sure you're feeling like you're in the right headspace to be there for your athletes, especially because, you guys said they feed off of you. So if you're not where you need to be, then it's going to be hard for them to be where they need to be. And so I think it's just really important to make sure that you have that time for yourself, even as busy as you can be, even just a little bit of time to not it doesn't have to be a leisure activity, just to self-evaluate. Where am I at right now? How am I feeling? And if I'm not feeling like where I need to be, what do I have to do to get there?
Yeah, I'd like to add in just one more thing there. I'm sure you got something too there, Dr. Ian, but sorry to cut you off. I think that when we're trying to make that time for ourselves, this is a little tip I'd like to share with everybody. Maybe you're in the same boat. I live by myself, so if I don't clean it, it doesn't get cleaned. If I don't wash it, it doesn't get washed. Laundry becomes an issue. Next thing you know, I'm looking for a work shirt, and where are they? Oh, there's 12 in the washing machine. So I use my washing machine as my hamper. When it fills, then I do my laundry. That doesn't work during meet season, right? Because you need stuff like repetitively for certain things that you might need to wear at a meet, or you have certain outfits that you like to coach in at the gym, but you have other ones you want to compete in. So it may not be feasible for everybody, but I decided to take some of my own personal money aside and get my laundry, bag it up, drop it off, $1 a pound, and pick it up the next day, and it's all folded on hangers. And then as far as cleaning goes, well, we have a person here in the gym that cleans the gym once a week. So I'm like, hey, how much to clean my little 1-bedroom apartment, right? So a little condo. So can you do that? So once a month she comes and she does my apartment, and that's $70. And maybe something you could add into your expenses at the gym, and the gym can help with that. But it's something that really helped me a little bit to take just that little bit of load of stress off. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go on this trip for 5 days to Virginia Beach. I don't have any laundry. When am I going to do laundry? I didn't do it last night. Well, I leave tomorrow, so I got to do it today. Well, I got to the gym today. So those are just a little tips of you could maybe get some people, even if you have to hire them to help you, can help you in your personal life as well.
Yeah, I think so throughout all four of us that have been talking, I think you hear a lot of like, all right, well, what's the work-life balance? Like that's a big buzzword, right? Work-life balance, or saying, and I'm kind of a firm believer that there may not be such a thing as work-life balance. There can be balance within a life or a year, right? But during any individual time, maybe throughout that year, you're going to have a season of, well, work has to take over right now because we've got big things happening. But later on, you go, hey, during summer, I can take more life balance then at that point. And so I think I'm a big firm believer in that. It would be wonderful if everything could just be the same every day and I could have, a little bit of time to myself, some time with my family, some time at the gym, some time working on my business, right? But that just doesn't always work. And so sometimes it's like this day is all about my business. And then this day is all about the gym. And then maybe I take a day off and now it's a family day. But I think that's an important thing to realize is that maybe until you retire, it's really hard to get a true work-life balance. And it would be nice if you could as a younger or new to the workforce or something like that. But a lot of times I think that doesn't actually happen. And then one other thing I wanted to add is, obviously I'm always kind of preaching to my kids about make sure you get enough sleep and make sure you get the right nutrition and that sort of thing. And what's really fun is that I've done it so much now that they get on to me if I don't do it. And I'm always like, hey, did you get enough sleep and all that? And so this summer, or no, it was this winter. Yeah, this winter I had time where I had to go help my dad do something down in Florida, and so we ended up going, hey, let's just make a 2-day Disney trip. My son's never been to Disney before. Let's have some fun with it. But of course, I had to coach gymnastics until like late that night, and so what I did, right, is I drove overnight, met them at Disney basically, and then we did Disney the whole day, and then I got some sleep that night. And so, I was telling my gymnasts about my trip and stuff. They're like, what? How are you going to do that? You always tell us that blah, 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 right? I was like, yes, I get it. I'm not perfect either. But, do the best you can, right?
Yeah, the kids actually start to be a part of it. You're right. Like with my rain goes, I'll tell them, oh, hey, girls, I got a sleep score of a 75 last night. So now it's like the new thing. Hey, Mr. Rob, what's your sleep score today? And then, I try to make 7 o'clock dinner time. And so it's like the changeover most of the time. Like there's kids in doing conditioning and stretch. And 7 o'clock we start events pretty much for the evening groups. And they'll be like, it's dinner time, Mr. Rob. So they're like helping because they know I bring food and it just sits down there in the fridge. Because, you walk in the back and you grab a protein bar and like, oh, there's a handful of nuts and I'm good to go and just keep coaching. Because I feel guilty, again, standing on the floor eating out of a container. Yesterday I had salmon and Brussels sprouts and asparagus. And the girls were like, wow, you got a good one today. And I have the same for tonight. And so it's funny because they always want to know what you're eating. And, did you make it? Did you buy it? All those things. But again, they're helping. They're helping to make sure that I'm getting in nutrition because you're right. I preach to them all day long about getting good sleep and getting good nutrition. And I'm not doing any of it. Getting good sleep
Right.
and I'm not getting good nutrition. So it's important that we walk what we talk. I think it's fun for them to continue to, hey, Mr. Rob, don't forget you have to eat today. So it's kind of good.
That's right. We're an example with these kids. We spend more time with them than they spend with their parents a lot of times, right?
Yeah, what
And,
good does it do? We're walking around with Red Bulls and,
Exactly. Yeah. If you walk in with a Monster or Red Bull or something every single day when you come in,
Yeah.
and then you're telling them, oh, you shouldn't need any
Don't
caffeine.
drink these things. You don't need caffeine. Yeah.
This is terrible for you. Don't drink this
12
while
cup of
you're
coffee.
sipping on it. Right. And so, I don't drink caffeine except for when I just want to. It's not like a necessity. I do it once or twice a week kind of thing if I have to do it. Or if it's, we go out to eat and I have a Dr. Pepper or something with it. But, I try and be an example for the kids because they're watching, just like the younger kids watch the older kids and what they do. Those older kids especially watch you and see what you're doing.
Well, especially now, Red Bull, they have all these like springtime edition and all these things. Now it's like the kids are chasing them around. They're paying $30 to get a can of Red Bull. And I'm like, whoa, you shouldn't be drinking Red Bull. What are you doing?
Oh, my goodness.
So like if I come walking in with a Red Bull, I'm just as guilty, right? So I got to make sure. I used to try to have one energy drink a day just for the caffeine. I just decided it's just not worth it. So I stopped.
I will say that I live off of coffee, so that's probably one of my bad things. But overall, like I agree with everything you say except the whole caffeine thing, Ian, because I love
Step
coffee.
your game up,
But
Becca. Come on.
Except for that. But you're right. Like I love that Ian pointed out that we talk about the balance, but there's truly no balance. Like what you want to do is like out of season, you want to like try to form some of those good habits so that maybe one of those things can go into season with you or something. You don't want to drop everything off. So it's just kind of just ebbs and flows as you go throughout the year. So it's just trying to maintain some sense of coping or doing something for yourself while you're doing it. So I think that's really important. But what I want to do now is we're going to kind of zoom out. We're just going to talk about what burnout is. Because a lot of times we don't realize what's going on with us. Because I talk about this with all the kids I work with. Awareness is the first thing. If we don't have the awareness of what's going on, we can't change anything. So burnout, is not just I'm always tired. For some coaches, it can be frustration. You can have a short temper. You're getting on to your athletes when you know in the back of your mind, you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. For others, it could be you're just feeling emotionally disconnected from gymnastics. You've lost that passion. You go into the gym and you're just, you know what, I don't want to be here. And then there's that physical side of it that we've been talking about, that lack of sleep. People can have headaches. They can have that extreme exhaustion. You can just feel sick from this burnout, from the stress. And there's actually a lot of stats. I was looking it up. And for gymnasts, they did some research back in 2022. And it said that 40% of gymnastics coaches reported that they actually have what they consider to be risky alcohol consumption across the board. Then 15 to 20% said that they were having moderate to severe sleep disturbances, which obviously we're seeing that just with us. And then 1 in 7 reported to have very high or just high psychological distress. So that's just being very concerned about what's going on. They're just mentally impacted by what's going on in the gym. So this isn't just an individual thing. This is kind of maybe a cultural thing that we need to be working on. So how much do you think coaches' stress comes from the job itself versus maybe the expectations that we have on ourselves as coaches?
Oh,
Does
yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, I think that obviously there can be some stressful situations, or you can work at a really stressful gym or something like that. But I think most of the time when I talk to coaches, observe coaches, those sorts of things, I think a lot of stress is placed upon themselves from themselves. I think we put a lot of stress on ourselves. I think a lot of that can come from really poor planning. Like I know gym coaches that, they'll be like, it's just common meme or whatever that goes around Facebook. And it's like, coaches are the ones who lose sleep over other people's kids. And I'm like, all right. That might happen occasionally with me if I don't feel I've planned something out right or I'm missing something in the gym. Then maybe all of a sudden I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, I can do this better. I can change this, right? But the vast majority of the time, I'm not all consumed with the gym, and I lay down at night just thinking, oh no, what do I need to do? What's happening? What's going on? Because I'm so detailed out in my planning that I know, hey, everything's taken care of. Everything is supposed to work the way it is, and then I can just kind of change it as I go. Whereas maybe less prepared coaches are sitting there stressing about what to do next, where to go next, why isn't this working, because they don't even have a plan in place.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's so important. It's scheduling what we're doing, having a detail, because I was one of those new coaches. I remember after practice, I was looking up things. I'd think about what was going on with my gymnasts. And okay, so what can I do to target this to help them? And so you are spending all that extra time outside of the gym focusing on those things that you don't need to be focusing on that are adding that extra stress. So scheduling, so important.
Yeah, I'll go on that real quick. I think sometimes even with the proper preparation, you feel really good about going into the gym. This is what I'm doing today, and I know these numbers are liking, and so, I know it's going to work. This is what I'm expecting, right? I've found this to work, but sometimes it's not always perfect. Maybe they're having trouble reaching these numbers today, and that's where the stress can come. You've prepared all you want, but then it doesn't always happen, and it's not always executed in the way you think it's going to happen. And then you get to be more frustrated. You start questioning, well, is the plan correct? Is it something with the kids? And then it just kind of snowballs into this building of stress that can cause those big frustrations at practice and cause you to get angry in practice. But another thing I think that's important to recognize is that, to a degree, I think it's okay to be frustrated at practice sometimes, because if I wasn't frustrated, that means I don't care about how my kids are doing. And that means I don't care about the product that I'm, not necessarily the product, but the athletes I'm trying to build, these kids, even just their character, not even the skills, right? I want them to go be successful people. And if I didn't care about that, then I probably wouldn't get frustrated when I feel like I wasn't getting the best out of them, or if they weren't giving me what they had. It's good to be nervous and stressed. It means you care. That's just something I've always thought. I was like, if I lose that, then something is missing from myself, right? Where's my fire? Where's my energy? This is what my kids are looking for. They feed off of it in the gym. If I'm excited, they're excited. If I'm motivated, they're motivated. They want to work hard. So I think it's very important how you use it. We don't want to sit there and just start screaming at kids. That's not what I'm advocating for whatsoever. However, I do think it's important to keep that fire underneath yourself and make sure you manage it in a way that's motivational and not detrimental to the practice or your athletes that you're working with.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between the frustration because you care and the frustration because you're burned out and you don't care and you're getting frustrated, right? There's a difference between those two frustrations, and the kids know the difference between those two as well. And I agree with your first point too, where yeah, there's certainly some times where I look at the plan and I look at the outcome and I go, whoops, something didn't match up. But that should be the exception, not the norm. And if your norm is holy moly, everything is terrible, nothing's going according to plan, then you need to take a step back and you need to work on your plan. Whereas if occasionally you go, well, that didn't work like it's supposed to. Okay, let me revisit this, and I spend a day or two retweaking things or really analyzing things, then I think that's an acceptable amount there.
Yeah, if I can jump in here just for a minute, I think a lot of that additional stress and some of the things that Thomas touched on is that your attitude when you come into the gym. But I think a lot of coaches, they think that they're the external source that's motivating that athlete. And in reality, you can motivate through bribery, or you can motivate by getting angry at them or something like that to get them motivated to do things. But something that helps me to relieve that stress is that, and it's been always part of my coaching career, is the toughest thing you have to do as a coach is not motivate your athletes. It's to get your athletes to motivate themselves. And to be able to do that is really important. So ways that I've found that works is with boys at least, and also girls, is you make it like a little competition, because boys are very competitive and they'll work hard. Maybe if you're doing routines, you split your group up into two, say, okay, this team's going against this team, and you do routines and you try to match and who's going to win. And that gets them, they're motivating themselves to do well instead of you as the external source trying to motivate them from the outside. So that's something that helps me kind of back off and relieve that stress. Like it's all up to me to motivate them. That's really not the case. My job is to get them to motivate themselves.
Absolutely.
No, that's exactly what we want. We want them to motivate themselves instead of us having to be that driving factor. And I think sometimes we place those expectations on ourselves, and that leads to that added stress and that burnout for coaches in the gym. And I think, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but I find that a lot of coaches aren't willing to ask other coaches for help or to reach out because they feel like they should already be knowledgeable in the area. Like they should already know what to do because they did gymnastics, even though doing gymnastics and coaching gymnastics are very different things. So do you think that maybe some of this burnout and stuff is coming from those expectations of what we feel like we need to be doing instead of being willing to ask for help, to reach out to those people that we work with or, more seasoned coaches?
For sure. I always say you can't charge a phone by unplugging it, right? So you can get some rest and recovery by taking a vacation, but you're going to come back and still be frustrated in the gym. I think if you really want to get excited in the gym again, and if you want to cure some of that burnout, you need to get around other people that are excited, right? You charge your phone by plugging it in. You need to get plugged into other people that are still excited about gymnastics. If you kind of hit that point where every day is just a grind and you're not excited about the gym like you used to be anymore, then find a group of people, go find a clinic, go find a gym down the road, go find your friends in gymnastics, and if you take a vacation, go visit their gym that that they're still excited and man, they're moving and grooving and they're ready to go.
Yeah, that's important. Obviously, as you see here, right, I've asked Miss Rebecca to help out with the situation in the gym, and I'm the same way with a skill. You can sit here and talk about all the things we've done in the past, and then you get this one kid who kind of gets you I can't teach this. I don't even know how to teach Kip anymore. And so you just bring somebody in, or like you say, catch a clinic, or somebody else in the gym teaches it to the athlete, and I'm just like, okay, great. There's no ego. That's a big thing for you coaches out there. Is like my ego used to get in the way. I didn't need any help from anybody, and I found out early on, 25 years ago, that wasn't the case, because after my first 3 or 4 good seasons of good gymnastics, no, I'm today the same way. I'll be down at this regionals that's coming up, and I'm spending the weekend with one of my good friends in the industry. We'll be up till 1 a.m. talking about hand changes, bars, and it's silly that we're up and we're both of us thinking like, hey, we need some rest. We get a good time. We don't have anything to do on Saturday. We'll probably spend the whole day talking about gymnastics. So yeah, go out there and get the help that you need. Don't be afraid.
Oh, so for me, especially as I continue to learn and expand my knowledge base and learn from some really great people in the sport, I love going to competitions every weekend, either as a coach or a judge, right? Because I get to talk to my colleagues. And like Rob said, even after the competition, camp, clinic, what have you, we're like, all right, well, we'll go some dinner, go have some beverages, whatever, and we'll sit there and all we talk about all night is gymnastics. You can't get away from it. But I at least so far early on in my career, I've tried to be a sponge whenever I can be. National team camp is a great place for me to do that. Mike's presentation he did over program planning and things like that, I used immediately when I got back into the gym, and I still use those, and they've been really successful for me. I like taking what I can and from everybody that I can learn from at all these places. And I think that's one of the best skills you can have is not even a gymnastics coach, but just in any type of sport, any type of coaching, right? You learn from all these people, you take what works for you, and then you build your own thing. You could say the same, like even for an athlete, like this athlete's particularly good at these skills, and I'm better at this than I am at that. Take what works for you, what works for your program from things you can learn, and build what works best for you. You don't have to copy and paste something from somebody else, right? You can get ideas, you can get inspired, you can get motivated. You're like, oh, well, I really like this. What if I tweaked it this way for my gym, for my program? And so far, that's what I've done. It's been very successful for me, is learning from some of the best to do it and building what works for me based off what I've learned.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, then find somebody else to do it for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not every coach signed up to be a strength and conditioning coach. Rob and I really like to do that stuff, but not every coach does. I've got two other coaches with me that they could not care less about strength and conditioning. They know it's important, but to sit down and plan it out is a chore for them, not something that they really get excited about. Whereas I'm like, oh yeah, let me plan out some strength and conditioning. Yeah. I get excited about that stuff. So make sure that you find your weak areas. Find someone else that can fill in that weak area.
I like to throw in there too that sometimes we get a little stressed out about how pumped up we are and we don't get the response. In my personal life, I always would wife, girlfriend, whatever, you're buying a gift and you're so excited to give it to them, and then you don't get the response that you were expecting after you give the gift. It could be the same in coaching. You're so fired up and so excited, and you have this thing, we're doing sticks and we're putting marbles in a jar, and the kids are just like, and I'm like, well, go put a marble in a jar. Okay. So sometimes as coaches, we want it more than they do. And I think you as a person, as a coach, you got to look at your own self. Do you want it more than them? Because it will affect your coaching ability. It'll affect your frustration level. It'll affect your stress level. You want it so much, and maybe they just don't care, or they don't care as much. So make sure that you're careful with yourself, because I know when I want it, the last thing I want to do is say, I had to come in here on a Sunday for you just to not do this release move. And I'm thinking, well, you invited them in here on Sunday and they came, so shut up, right? So those are the words that I don't want to use, because then I'm kind of battling my own self against my own athlete to be better. So I just wanted to make sure I got to throw that in.
For sure. I think most coaches are highly motivated individuals. And there's a few out there that probably aren't, but I think most coaches are really highly motivated. And I know for myself, I was just a self-motivated gymnast as well. On the men's side of things, usually you don't have a team of 10 level 10s. That doesn't hardly ever happen on the men's side of things. And so for me, the last 2 years of my gymnastics career, I was the oldest one by a few years and by several levels. And I was the only level 10 in the gym, and I'm just grinding it out and trying to hit that college gymnastics dream, right? And made it there. But it's just because I'm that just kind of naturally motivated person. And so when I see my athletes not being self-driven and self-motivated, I'm like, what? How can you not be, right? And so I have to kind of take a step back and go all right, don't put what I think is the perfect gymnast, don't put that overlaid on them. Let's help them through that and help them to get their gymnastics better, right?
Yeah, I got to throw out there too, just doing these podcasts each week I go out there after we're done. We finish at whatever 12:30 or something, and then I start coaching around 1:30. And the first thing I do is, hey, we talked about this today, and it reminded me of something. And there hasn't been a week yet that we've done a podcast that I haven't incorporated it into my workouts. So it's also rejuvenating me. So we were talking about making time for yourselves. This 1 hour, or that's actually 2 hours a week that we're doing, right? Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is rejuvenating me. And this is me time. As much as that might sound crazy, I'm talking about gymnastics and I got to get to the gym and I got to be online and got to pretty up my hair and make sure I look good. But
That's right.
this is me time. And it really motivates me, and it gives me a self-awareness and some self-peace that, like, hey, listen, not only am I helping others, I'm helping myself with this, because talking about it makes me feel better. To share with others makes me feel better. And then turn around and bring it in the gym really helps me to get some me time.
I love that you said that, Rob, because for talking solutions, us as a group, so we're working as a team to do this. And I think that is something that could be changed in gymnastics, is making this more of a system thing versus we have to do this individually. So how do you guys think that we could incorporate more of this well-being, more discussion into our gyms or the organization, so that coaches are working together, building themselves up and working on their self-care and whatnot, versus just this being an individual solo kind of lonely thing?
Yeah, for me, I think give yourself permission to take time off from the gym is perfectly fine. For some reason, every other profession in the world is fine with taking a couple of weeks off a year, except for gymnastics coaches. And so I kind of force myself to do it, where our program throughout the year requires that our gymnasts are out of the gym for 4 weeks at some point in time, right? Not 4 weeks in a row, but for 4 weeks at some point in time throughout the year. And so that means that I don't have anybody to coach if I step in the gym. So there's no point in me being there. So like last week we had a week off, and I did go in to install a bar, but that was just a 1-ish day thing. But it wasn't coaching. It was something different. For some reason, self-care for me, I really enjoy manual labor. If I have to go build my chicken coop, or if I have to go cut a tree down, or if I have to work on setting up a bar at the gym, that's just really fun for me, which probably just sounds super weird, right? But it's really fun for me, and it's something that kind of does give me some self-time, self-care, I guess.
Well, I can jump in if you guys are about to wrap things up a little bit here, but I think that communication, whoever your team director is or your team manager, they have to set up times and meetings to really talk about these things and get input from your staff as far as how they're feeling, if they're feeling burnout and why they're feeling burnout, and give them the tools that they need so that those things don't happen. And Ian's right. It may just be, the gym, we're closing down the gym for this week for vacation. I don't want to see anybody here. You're not allowed in the gym. No private lessons, no nothing. Just be out of the gym. And I think that's something you as a coaching staff have to talk about in your gym. Even if there's only 2 coaches in your gym, you two have to talk and say, okay, this is when we're going to give the kids a break, and we're going to take a break at this time also. But setting those dates yearly so that you get that time off. I get really jealous when I talk to people from New Zealand and different countries, because they have months off at a time. They don't take a week, they take a month off. And they're required to take that vacation time. And it's just, I get a little bit jealous, but it's not the job that we have. We can't ever give the kids that much time off because we're a year-round sport. But giving them a week off, and the reality of it is they take it. If the parents go on vacation, they take the kids. So that kid gets rejuvenated, but you're still in the gym with the other kids. So you have to set that time where you just shut the gym down and just say, hey, I don't want to see any coaches, any kids for a week, and let's just take a break and then come back and then hit it hard.
Yeah, and if you tell them far enough in advance, then the parents are more likely to take their family vacation during that time too, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you just tell them, hey, by the way, next month we're taking a week off, that's not enough time for parents to plan vacations and that sort of thing. But if they know that every 4th of July week is closed, or right after states or right after regionals, you have a week off, or whatever it is, right? If you have those things planned out, then that's when parents can take some extra time off there that way.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We have the week between Christmas and New Year's, which is a hard one because I don't like to take off because the kids are getting ready for a meet January 6th. So it's like you're taking off the, almost 10 days in between there. But then July 4th week is our week and everybody knows it. We don't insist that they can't take any other vacations, but That's the team camp. Then the week after is the team vacation, right? That's our week off. Don't come in the gym. And some of the team coaches were like, well, I'm going to do day camp or rec camp. I'm like, no, just take off. I'm taking off. I'm going away 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. And I've been trying the last 4 or 5 summers to actually make a whole week's vacation. Last year I went to Dominican, and it was good. It's a nice rejuvenation for myself. The other thing I think too, Mike, you're right, with your staff, I try to once a week take the girl assistants, whatever, the staff out for breakfast. It used to be on like Thursday mornings after our Zoom call. And then they had level 3 states this weekend, and they finished at 5 o'clock up at State College. And it happened to also be NCAA regionals was the final night. So I bought them tickets and sent them to the meet and got them a hotel room to stay overnight because they didn't need to. They could have just drove up, coached the meet, and drove back. It's a 9-hour day, call it a day's work. And I said, no, here's a room. You girls stay overnight. I took them out to a really nice lunch. Then they took themselves out to a nice dinner after the meet, and they went and got to see the meet. So it's a little rejuvenation time for them as well. Very important for your staff.
Yeah, I like the little stuff like that. Obviously, as we've all talked about so far, taking some, chunks off during the year. I think that's, a thing that people do, and it's really good, and those times are set most of the time. But also just little things you can do on a day-to-day or even weekly basis. In my gym, one thing I really like that we do is, I'm sure you guys do this to a degree, is like we'll set up, like a little volleyball or something, like over some panel mats. Where I was at previously, we let the kids play the game, and the coaches will watch and talk. At our gym, we get involved. The coaches are playing too. Every team's got a coach's team captain, right? We're gonna go play. And sometimes maybe that's all I needed that day. I've been having such a stressful week or month or whatever, and just to go have that fun volleyball game where I'm playing with the kids, we're getting competitive, we're getting into it, and I walk away from that, I'm like, that way better. That was a lot of fun. I just needed 20 minutes of volleyball, right? And that's just something that you can sprinkle in there that's real easy, even for just a few minutes a week. And I think that's really important to just go have some fun a little bit. And yeah, for me, it's like even Rob said, taking his, staff out to breakfast. It's just a little thing sometimes that can make a big difference.
Yeah. And we were talking about that last week about volleyball. We played last week, was a little like stress breaker. And then Monday, of course, I walk in here and they got a softball game going on inside the middle of the gym. I'm like, okay, girls, what do we got today?
I also think team meetings, whether you guys do it monthly or every 2 weeks or something, where you just bring your team together and ask them what they're struggling with, what they need help with, and to make that assumption that they need to discuss something. I think that's important to do so that we're collaborating more within the gym, so that we are saying that, hey, it's okay that you're not going to know all the answers when you're doing things. I think that helps out, especially with younger staff, younger coaches. They need that help, but sometimes you have that fear of asking. So I think a big thing is recognizing our signs. So let's kind of go through those steps to take, those things that we can do right now. So like we discussed, being aware. Are you feeling exhausted? Are you short-tempered? Are you getting angry with people in and out of the gym? What's going on with you? So see those things, and then find small ways to avoid emotional and physical exhaustions. And we've kind of given some of those examples, like Thomas said, playing volleyball in the gym. You can even go out for 5 minutes, take a break when your kids are having snack or water break. If you need some fresh air for a second, just step outside for a minute. And then I think a big thing is setting boundaries in the gym with yourself. What are you willing to give? What are realistic expectations of the things you can get done in that week? Okay, we don't want to overdo it. The more you keep overloading yourself, like Ian said at the beginning when he was going to school and trying to do it, that only can last so long, and then you burn out. So we want to recognize those things, talking about it. And if you're in a leadership position, start asking how you can support your coaches better. What needs to change in your gym to create a more supportive, positive environment for them? Because this can't just be an individual thing, like we said. This has got to be incorporated into our gym, into our culture. And this isn't about avoiding burnout. It's about creating an environment where everyone can thrive. Because remember, if our coaches are thriving, our gymnasts are thriving. And that's where we want. We want everybody winning. So, all right, that's a wrap, I think, of this episode, but we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on how you think gyms and organizations could do better to support their coaches when it comes to well-being and limiting that burnout, please share it with us by commenting, sending us a message, or tagging us on social media with your biggest takeaways. So thank you for joining us here at the NGA podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who could benefit from these discussions. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and high-performing.